A very good evening to you. I'm Pearson Bowen. Heavy rains lashed the island overnight and early this morning, prompting officials from the Met Office to place Barbados under a flood watch. CBC teams went to the roads to see how Barbadians fared.
The inclement weather certainly made its presence felt here on the west coast of the island. Here at Discovery Bay, the general manager Brian Carter told us that by 9:30 it was clear. The rains had come. The sandbags that were placed at the entrance of the Discovery Bay made no difference to the floodwaters that were caused by the steady, heavy rains. Mr. Carter says as much as 3 inches of rain rushed into the property's lobby, kitchen and offices, including his. However, he says staff did a tremendous job working quickly to push off the water that had accumulated, and guests also jumped in to help. The staff's efforts were supplemented by members of the Barbados Fire Service, who had to be called in to help pump the water off the kitchen. Mr. Carter also praised them for their efforts, which he says went beyond the call of duty. Now, according to him, by 12:30, the restaurant had been cleared and they were able to serve lunch. There was still a significant amount of water on the lawns of the property, however, but ground staff were busy setting up a pump to get rid of that water. Mr. Clark says they will also conduct inspections around the property to ensure there is no stagnant water that could breed mosquitoes. Now, other than the activity at Discovery Bay, it was relatively dry along the west coast. Only slow-moving traffic and fairly big puddles of water showing any evidence of the night and early morning's heavy rains. But the story was not the same at Factory Avenue in the Pine. Workers at the National Housing Corporation depot there were restricted. The roads surrounding it flooded, blocking people from reaching the entrance of the building. Over at Coral Ridge Cemetery, heavy showers prevented the groundsmen from carrying out their usual tasks. Some graves were affected, the groundsmen telling CBC some graves sank, pushed down by the wet soil above them. They had to put gravel into the holes to stop them sliding further. And close to the Sheraton Centre, drivers were forced to change route as the road along Tino Terrace flooded, making it difficult for vehicles to get through. One driver learned the hard way. His car stalled in the high waters along the road. Lisa Broom, CBC News.
For residents of St. Anne's Road, the Pine, it was a day to forget. Their homes were flooded once again, fueling anger and calls for the problem to be immediately rectified.
My mother, because we just trapped upstairs for the longest time, can't get down to do nothing. The baby crying saying he wants something to eat, and I can come down here and do nothing in this kind of condition.
I'm seeing some of your traffic here, walking log time. Who's going to replace this here?
Well, National Housing will have to replace it. That's why here waiting now. Before anybody clean, they got to tell me how they can compensate me for it.
Every time the rain fall, it could drizzle. Here this flood. And I've been going through this for the last 32 years.
So what you want done, really? What you want
A
done?
well want digging, an additional well want digging, because as I was told, the well cannot take no more.
From 1985, I was getting flooded out. If the rain set up, the house flood. I went and tell them, build a drain to the back that when the water coming, because the hill is in a gradient and the water keep coming into the house. Build a drain that the water could come in and go out to the back and flood down Regent Hill. I go year after year. I went and tell them, okay, I buy the house. Either want to move me from here and put me in another house or pay me my money. Them telling me that we were got to pay you the same money that you buy it for. I said, can't work.
And meteorologist David Best joins us now. David, what is the current situation?
A very good evening to you, Pearson, and good evening to all. And, well, on a day when we had not a lot of good news being bandied around, by 4:30 this evening, we were able to lift the flood warning that was issued at 6 o'clock and continued at noon. Now, I don't want you to drop your guard overnight, though. The trough system, which has been the major contributor to the instabilities that we had affecting Barbados, and I say Barbados because Barbados alone was suffered the consequences of the instability. That trough system continues to linger pretty close to Barbados and in a very favorable condition. Moisture levels continue to be high. There is the potential over the next 12 to 24 hours for some scattered shower activity and maybe some isolated thunderstorms. So we are urging you to continue to monitor the situation very closely. I'll give you more details later. Pearson?
David, thank you so much. Teams from the drainage unit were deployed to several areas as the Department of Emergency Management responded to calls about flooding across the island. The unit is one of several agencies operating under the DEM's response mandate. Areas the teams were sent to include Union and Long Bay St. Philip, Britons Hill, Belleville and Ivy St. Michael, and Sergeant's Village Christchurch. Director of the DEM, Judy Thomas, details the work undertaken.
They have been concentrating mainly on replacing manholes in the area, because if you have a problem with flooding, then the manhole has to be covered so that it can drain the water and don't create another threat on the highways of Barbados. And they've also been clearing blockages.
In other news tonight, over 1,000 cases of child abuse have been reported by the Child Care Board over the last year. Minister of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment and Community Development, Steve Blackett, is calling on churches and faith-based leaders to educate their communities to break the silence on child abuse and neglect.
Child protection is a serious matter, and nations all over the world have developed initiatives that would reduce the occurrence of this scourge. From the statistics of the Child Care Board, I have been reliably informed that during the period April 1 last year and March 31 this year, 1,045 children were referred for allegations of abuse. The previous year, there were reports of alleged child abuse and neglect regarding 1,087 children. This figure is high, yet it does not represent all of the children who have been abused. Rather, it is said to be the tip of the iceberg.
Mr. Blackett was speaking earlier today at a child protection symposium for church and faith-based leaders. There, the Reverend Suzette Husbands of Sanctuary Empowerment Center said child abuse is not a secret to be kept.
There is a need for personal responsibility and dedication to children's care. In our arms, they should find refuge, blessing, hope, and encouragement to be all that they can be, knowing that they have our full support. Equally, where there is abuse, we each have a personal responsibility to do something to correct the circumstance.
More news ahead in just a moment, but first, we'd like to hear from you on this question. Do you think the church is well placed to assist in the reduction of child abuse? Text yes or no to the short code 8111, those results at the end of the news.
The Barbados Food and Wine and Rum Festival, November 20th to 23rd. Taste the culinary delights of top local and international chefs like Marcus Samuelson, Anne Burrell, Tyler Florence, Roger Mooking, Michael Hines, Dane Sadler, Daphne's Restaurant, and more. The Barbados Food and Wine and Rum Festival, 5th edition, November 20th to 23rd. Visit foodwinerum.com or contact Premier Event Services Inc. at 435-0670. Get your tickets now at Wine World or Ticketpal.com.
Reminisce and bring back the memories. Comey presents Wrap Yourself Round the Flag, Saturday, November 29th at Kensington Oval from 9 p.m. Wear your national colors and celebrate our nationhood with the Troubadours International, Promise, Mr. Dale, Richard Stout, Tony Grisette, Carolyn Leacock, and from New York, Lou Jake Skirton. Tickets on sale at Ticket Pal box offices at $48. Get your early bird and BART member tickets at $40. Wrap yourself round the flag, a night of patriotic nostalgia.
Both unions involved in talks relating to air traffic controllers say they are comfortable with the progress being made to correct the issues the controllers face. The air traffic controllers staged a short work stoppage on Monday to protest a number of issues. Deputy Director of Industrial Relations at the Barbados Workers Union, Dwayne Paul, says this morning's meeting, chaired by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of International Transport, lasted about half an hour. He says while the work has started on installing new air conditioning units and the cleaning of the tower, there is still much more to be done.
It is scheduled to be continued tonight. The work has reached a stage where some of the new installations have been completed, so we are comfortable with that, as well as the provisions of water to the tower has also been completed. So we are comfortable with that aspect of the work so far, and the fact that it's going to continue to fully rectify with attempts to try from tonight going forward to fully rectify the problem with the air quality in the tower.
One of the other issues that will be discussed once the parties meet again is that of staff shortages. Deputy General Secretary of the National Union of Public Workers, Rosalind Smith, says the staff at the tower are now working as many as 16 double shifts per week. Describing the situation as untenable, Ms. Smith says while they do not expect the matter to be solved overnight, there has to be some movement on the issue. She tells CBC News this also involves the establishment of posts so officers can be appointed.
I believe that Monday's meeting would be in a position to give some kind of time frame when these positions would be established so that the officers can be appointed. And the other part they use is the staffing, because the air traffic controllers are very short staffed, and we have to ensure that there's ongoing training of the cadets to fulfill the staffing requirements over a period of time, because as you would be aware, it takes about 3 years really to fully train that officer.
Well, that meeting is scheduled for Monday at 10:30 in the morning and will involve officials from the Ministry of the Civil Service and the Personnel Administration Division. An appeal is being made to the public to dig a little deeper to help the Salvation Army this Christmas season. This from the chairman of the Advisory Board of the Salvation Army, Paul Bernstein, at the Salvation Army's Christmas Kettle Appeal launch ceremony. Mr. Bernstein noted the Army's troublesome financial situation has been brought on by an increase in the number of persons requesting help.
And the Salvation Army, on this particular point in time, is going through a very, very serious, I wouldn't say crisis, but a very, very close to a serious crisis in terms of financing the amount of people that are coming into Reed Street and the other outlets. I mean, when you see people losing their jobs and their mothers coming into you with no income and children are hungry and what have you, it is a very, very sad situation, and the Salvation Army will certainly not turn their back to anyone like that.
Well, despite the financial issue, Minister of Social Care and Constituency Empowerment, Steve Blackett, highlighted the government and the Salvation Army's commitment to providing human services for the country's most vulnerable.
Through its many activities, including its feeding program, distributing some 160 meals per day to shut-ins across St. Michael, St. Thomas, and St. George, and the operation of its daycare centers, its after-school program, the distribution of food hampers, and its back-to-school program also contribute considerably to the safety net that is necessary for so many individuals and so many families. Our welfare department in government has also expended thousands of dollars so far this financial year on food vouchers, on clothing, spectacles, even burials, land and house rents, payment of light and water bills, all to better the lives of our citizens.
Oistins was the place to be last night. The fishing village was the location for the official launch of the 2014 edition of the Food and Wine and Rum Festival. Locals and visitors were afforded the opportunity to not only see international chef Marcus Samuelson conduct a live cooking demonstration, but sample a number of dishes. Chairman of the Barbados Tourism Marketing Incorporation, Alvin Jemmett, says the event, now in its 5th year, is exposing more local talent to the world. He says the island also benefits in the process.
First of all, it takes place in one of what we call the shoulder periods. And if we want to truly grow our tourism arrivals, we have to look at how we create events outside of the traditional winter period that will encourage people to come to Barbados because the event is being staged. And this event being held in November comes at a good time.
Mr. Jemmett sees potential for some Barbadians who took part in NIFCA to be a part of the festival.
It would certainly be nice on a night like tonight or any of the other big nights to have them paired with some of the international chefs or some of the more experienced chefs and have them demonstrate their stuff and learn the way as well.
And the man of the moment, Chef Marcus Samuelson, welcomes the festival, saying he loves Barbados and interacting with locals.
I've been coming to Barbados for 7 years. I love it. You know, I'm from Africa, I grew up in Europe, so Barbados has both African feel to me, European feel to me also, but also, of course, it's very unique as being Bayesian. So the food inspires me, the place is unique, and when you're in a place like this, you don't have to explain. You can just look around and see this is very rare, and this should be celebrated.
The public is being advised of the temporary closure of the southbound lane of the ABC highway between the JTC Ramsey or Bussa roundabout, Haggart Hall, to the junction of Upton Road between 4 a.m. and 5 on Sunday, November the 23rd. The closure is to facilitate the transport of equipment from the BET compound to the CBC premises. We do apologize for any inconvenience and urge you to approach the area with caution. Regional news next, but first a reminder that we'd like to hear from you on this question. Do you think the church is well placed to assist in the reduction of child abuse? Text yes or no to the short code 8111. Those results are coming up. Follow CBC